Look at that. Look at that. Okay. So we are in the level 4 worksheet, and the first task is pretty easy, but the first task I like a lot because it's actually going to expose you to a couple new panels that a lot of you might not use that I think are really, really effective. So if I were going to go ahead and make my gear, the first thing I'm going to do before I do anything else is I'm going to make sure that I have my rulers visible. And so do you guys know how to do that? All right, that's right. You might not remember. So if I'm in Illustrator and I go up to View, I go to View and there's rulers, and I can say, right now mine are on, so it's saying Hide Rulers. Yours would say Show Rulers. You can turn your rulers on. And turning your rulers on is going to be really important. That way you can make guidelines. You can just click and drag guidelines out by clicking in the ruler and then dragging down, and you can make whatever guidelines you want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grab my ellipse tool, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this very first circle. Let me zoom in a little bit more just so we can see it, right? So how would I go ahead and make sure that my circle is a true circle? Say it loud. Shift, right? So I'm going to hold shift, and I can always try. I like to use these intersect lines. Now, granted, you're not going to often be doing this with a guide, but that way you can see where the existing top and bottom are, so you know how to position your corner cursor. Because that's one of the challenges with a circle, is knowing where to start. So I'm holding down shift. I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to make my circle. It's perfect. Great. Hooray. I made it. So I made my circle. And then what a lot of you might do is go ahead and make yet another circle bigger than that. And I personally think that's unnecessary, right? So what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to give this thing a huge stroke that fills this space, right? So I look over here at my stroke in my appearance panel, my stroke profile, or I can see my stroke up here. I can do it on the far right or up at the top. But I'm just going to make this stroke really fat. Now the issue is right now my stroke is centered on the outline of my circle, right? So it's filling in inward and outward. How would I go ahead and change that? Anybody know? Yeah. So if I click on the word stroke here or here, then I get my stroke profile, and I can change this. My alignment, instead of being centered, my alignment could be either inward or outward. So I'm going to align it to the outside of my circle. So I click on the word stroke, that shows me my alignment, and then I can go and I just can continue doing this. I think it goes to 42. 43. 43 looks pretty good. Now, if I wanted to later use this though as a shape, I've got an issue, right? And that is I've got a transparent circle, which is a huge fat stroke on it. And if I wanted to turn this into a shape or something, it's not really going to do what I want it to do. So what I actually need to do is I need to convert this stroke into a shape. So with it still selected, I'm going to use, there's a couple different ways to do this. I typically go through the menu. Mr. Roberts might do it differently. But I'm going to go up to Object. No, I'm not. Yeah, Object. I'm going to go to Path. And I can go to Outline Stroke. And that's going to take my stroke. And now you can see it has red outlines on the inside and outside. Now this is a shape, right? So it's no longer a stroke. It is now its own shape. So it's a ring, and that's the shape that I needed, okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Cool. Next thing I'm going to do, oh, I wish I hadn't done that yet. Well, that's okay, because I still got my guides here and here, is I'm going to use these little guide markers to find out where the center of my entire shape is. That's going to be really, really important. I'll tell you why in a minute. So I'm going to click and drag from my rulers, and I'm going to drag, and I'm going to use these little white boxes. I can't quite get it. Dang it. There we go. Got it. So I got a guide right there. I can click here again, click and drag, so that I can find the exact center of my entire shape. So now I know that that cross point, that's the center of all of this. Can you guys see that decently? All right. And that's going to be important for my next step. So I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to work on all these little gear pieces. What's the word for those? I'm going to call them nubbins. That sounds like a good word, right? So I need to make all these little nubbins sticking off my gear. I don't know. So here's my rectangle tool. And I'm going to click. I'm going to drag. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger than I need to make it down so it's overlapping into my ring. And there we go. And I can give it fill if I want. Sure, why not? So I've made one. Now how would I go about making all of these additional nubbins? Or widgets, cogs. Thank you. I don't know. I should be in CAD. Yeah.
Like, can you call
You could copy it, and then you could manually rotate each one, and that would work. But I'm actually going to show you, we haven't used it much before, but there is this thing called the rotate tool right over here. See how it looks like a little rotating arrow? So with my rectangle selected, that's really important, then I can rotate, grab my rotate tool. I want to rotate this around what point? The very center. So I'm going to go to the center, which is why I made my guidelines, and I'm going to Option click. So I'm holding down Option. That didn't work out super well. Oh, I know why. So I'm going to Option click, and that's going to bring up this dialog box, right? Just like when you reflect something, you find the point you want to reflect from, and you Option click the reflect tool. We're using the rotate tool. So I'm going to Option click, and I want to reflect this. How many times do I want? I want what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I want 10 of these going around my gear. Now, if I were a math major, I could figure out that a circle is 360 degrees. If I want 10 of them, then each one needs to be at a 36-degree angle from the next, right? Because 360 divided by 10. But that's too much work for me, right? Dividing 360 by 10. I can't do that. So what I'm going to do for my angle is I'm just going to type in 360, because that's how big a circle is, divided by however many I want, 10. And it'll do the math for me. Thank goodness. And then if I preview that, look, oh, it rotated the right amount. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not going to hit OK. I'm going to hit copy, right? Because I'm making a copy. I want to keep my first rectangle. I just want to make a new copy that's rotated 36 degrees. So I hit copy, and it made a new one. So I had my original and made a new one. Well, that's great, but what about all the other 8 of these? If I go ahead and I want to duplicate that command, then I want to make another rotated one at another 36-degree angle difference. So do you guys know how to duplicate a command that you just did? Carson does. Command and D. So if I hit Command and D, done. So it rotated around that point, and now I'm set. So I made my circle. I used Object, Path, Outline Stroke to make it into a stroke, and then I made my rectangle, and I used my Rotate tool to just rotate it around as many times as I wanted. Okay? The other thing I could do is how would then I unite all of these to become one cohesive shape? Hey, I heard it. Typically in the past we would have used Shape Builder, right? You guys know Shape Builder. It's over here. It's our friend. I love Shape Builder. However, we're going to go a little more advanced, and we're going to, instead of using Shape Builder like I would have done here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to use our Pathfinder tool. So with it all selected, my Pathfinder tool lives over here in my panel, or I can go to Window, and I can find Pathfinder that way, and bring up my Pathfinder panel. Pathfinder has all these different commands, and the easiest one right here on the left is the Unite command. So with everything selected, if I just hit Unite, boom, it united them. I didn't have to make sure as I was shape building that I caught every little corner. If you've ever been shape building a complex shape, sometimes you're like, oh my gosh, I missed that one little gap, right? So Pathfinder Unite will just unite them all. And there's different types of Pathfinder modes that we'll talk about as we go forward with the intersect or the exclude we'll get into. But Pathfinder is a really powerful tool. It just unites them all instantly, and you are done, which is beautiful. I love Pathfinder. Go there, Pathfinder. It's important. So Pathfinder's going to be your friend. And then the last thing I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to make my M. A couple different ways to make the M. What do you think would be the most efficient way to make the M? If you found this exact font, you could type it. The N, right? And you guys may remember from DID1 that you can actually take a piece of type and convert that letter into a shape itself, if you found the exact one. If I couldn't find the exact font, what would I do if I had to make it? Any ideas? I could always find the center of it, and I could build it with my pen tool, but one thing I should know is this is a symmetrical object, right? So at the very least, I would expect that you would only draw half of it and use a, use your line of symmetry to go ahead and use your guides to at least only draw half of it. That way, when you make it using your reflect tool, you could, again, option click. My panels are over here. I want a vertical reflection. I previewed it. I want to copy that. And I can nudge this over a little bit so it's true. And then I can select both of these, hold down Shift. And I could go to my Pathfinder and I could unite them if they're truly overlapping, which I don't know that they are. Maybe. Does that work? Let's get that guide out of there so I can see. There's a little gap, so I got to work on that. But that's it. And then I could even unite this with my gear. But the Pathfinder tool can be very, very powerful. You can do a lot of good work with it. Now they're united. Now these are united. And it's all one shape. Perfect. Done. Any questions? Maybe a few. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video.